Welcome back into the show, 107. I'm Jason Pine. A very special hour ahead. A huge pleasure to welcome into the studio for the next hour Rugby League royalty. In February, Stacey Jones confirmed as head coach of the Kiwis, having served as an assistant coach with the New Zealand men's side since 2018. 8 seasons as assistant coach with the Warriors, and of course, a decorated playing career.
Stacey Jones is to the left. They've got number problems here, Manly. Jones, surely they must score. Jones has done it. Stacey Jones, Manly only had 3 defenders. He beat Menzies, and as he has done throughout his career, Stacey Jones will get the Warriors home surely. The clock is winding down. Stacey Jones has the ball on the last play. How ironic in his career, he goes out a winner.
Yeah, they called him the Little General, of course, more than 350 games at the highest level. He captained the Kiwis and played 46 tests for New Zealand, 261 games for the Warriors, 45 matches for the Catalan Dragons in Super League. He won the Golden Boot in 2002 for Best International Player, inducted into the New Zealand Rugby League Legends of League, included in the New Zealand Rugby League Team of the Century, inducted into the New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame and the NRL Hall of Fame, awarded the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to rugby league, arguably the greatest New Zealand rugby league player of all time. Nice to see you, mate.
Yeah, Jason, thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming in, Stacey. Let's talk about the Kiwis. How much are you looking forward to taking charge as head coach of the Kiwis for the first time?
Yeah, very excited, Jason. When I got appointed in February, it's seems like a while ago now, but it's getting closer now to actually doing the real thing. Looking forward to getting into camp. Looking forward to the final series and players getting through unscathed. First game in Christchurch against Australia, then back in Auckland versus Tonga, which will be really tough. So really excited.
What was the process like? Was it like a job interview? Did you have? How many interviews did you have?
Had a couple. It was a process that took me out of my comfort zone. Hadn't done one of these before, and I felt I worked really hard to put stuff together and give my vision of why I think I should be the coach. And look, I had people around me that have been really supportive around this. So in particular, the Cameron George and Andrew Webster, Mark Robinson at the Warriors. So really supportive for me to do this.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. So they encouraged you. They didn't necessarily think that it would be something that would distract you from your gig at the Warriors. They saw it as complementary?
No, they saw it. They said it adds value. Me being in that environment and will make me a better coach. And I was very fortunate to have them right behind me.
As Kiwis coach, how much of it is making those guys want to play for the jersey?
Yeah, look, I was very fortunate to be involved last year in particular with the success we had and how connected that group of players are. I'm very blessed of having a really strong leadership group that know what they want. And the really good thing Michael Maguire did last year was he gave a lot of ownership to the players. And I feel I've got to continue down that path. The senior leadership group of James Fisher-Harris, Jerome Hughes, Joe Tapani, Nelson Solomona, Kieran Foran, a really strong group of players, really experienced, and they all know how to win games of rugby league, which certainly makes it a bit easier.
What does that ownership look like?
It's meeting with them and talking about the week, what they want, and the balance of that. Obviously, what I need from them. The good thing about these guys, they don't take shortcuts. They're clear on what they want, and I've got to be clear on what I give them.
How different is it from an NRL environment?
Very different. A couple of reasons. You're dealing with the elite players. Warriors there is all different ranges of players. It's a shorter campaign, obviously, and I guess playing for your country. And I was fortunate enough again to play for the Kiwis and know the connection, the brotherhood, and all of that. And this group of players have continued that.
Is that something that you play on a lot when you're together? Because these are the best players, right? As long as you get your selection right, you've got the best players. So do you, and wanting to unpack this connection element again. Do you talk a lot about connection during your time, or do you talk more about how we're going to defend today?
Again, it's the balance. So, the first couple of days is about that and finding out what we want to achieve, how we're going to go about it, and then it just flows. They just, you love being in camp as a group. You're limited time in that, so it's real. The first couple of days is pretty important about the bonding side of things.
How do you bring new guys in? What's the process around bringing new players in?
Yeah, like last year, we had a strong cultural element about ourselves. Not just Māori culture, our Pacific Island culture, and the young players, making sure that they're welcomed. And this is what this group is really good. No matter how experienced you are, or there's no real. You got to do something really bad to earn it. This group, as soon as you're in that team, you're a part of the team.
Was that the same for you when you came into the Kiwis?
A little bit different, I think. A bit more old school.
Yeah.
I probably had to do a few more. Had to make sure that the older players probably wash their boots or carry their bag and stuff like that. But no, things have certainly changed. But there's some tradition strong, because part of me about this team is also understanding our past, understanding where the jersey was and where it is now, and also understanding our future.
So are you keen then for your players to know the history of the team in terms of we won the World Cup in this year, and this was a very famous game, and this guy played 50 games. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yeah, it's important. And one good thing I want to do is make sure that we can get some old boys around the group. Our first week down in Christchurch, I'm trying to think of who's a player that's come from the South Island that I can get around the group a little bit. And the first person that sprung to mind was Simon Mannering. Yep. What a legend of the game he was, and all these players in this team will understand where Simon's come from. And I spoke to Simon the other day, and he's really keen to just get around. I said, Simon, you don't have to come in and say a big speech or anything like that. I might get you to put some cones out on the field and whatnot. But he just loves that sort of stuff, Simon. And I know that these players will really respect it and enjoy having around from him for a little bit. When are you going to name your squad? So September 30, my understanding, I've just been given guidelines. We've got to name a 30-man squad. We've got a wider squad at the moment. And it's a pretty wide squad, but we're going to need it by the sounds of it, with players dropping out through injury. And then it'll cut back to 21 players.
Are you likely to keep faith with most of the guys who are involved, availability pending, of course, who were involved in the 30-0 last year? You beat Australia in that final. Yeah. Is it likely to be the same guys?
Likely, but some players will be unavailable. One, Joey Manu's going to rugby, so he won't be a part of the squad, and he's been a massive part of this team for quite some time. And then players injured too. There's a couple of injuries that we've got to deal with. So the exciting bit, there's a good core group of players from last year, but I'm also super excited about someone making their debut. Yeah. Stacey Jones is in studio with us. He'll take your calls if you like, 0800 80 1080, or text your questions through to 9292. They're starting to come in now, so we'll try and get some of those questions. Just on the players who definitely won't be there, is there anybody who categorically won't be there because either they're injured, they're resting, or they're having off-season surgery? Yeah, Dylan Brown injured his knee last round of the NRL season, so he needs surgery. He's going to be out for some time, so he's unavailable. Kieran Foran is having ankle surgery. Had ankle surgery yesterday, so he won't be there. And I'm just trying to think who else. There's Brandon Smith wasn't there last year, but he's injured too, so he would have definitely been in consideration. So tough, but give someone else an opportunity. You got a bunch of guys who are playing finals as well, right? Are you watching these games? I think there's only one of the 8 teams that doesn't have guys who are eligible if you want to pick them. Are you watching these games with your fingers crossed? Certainly am, Jason. I'm watching it, hoping no one gets injured, and also hoping that they play good footy and, enter our final series, the game goes to another level.
Absolutely. You might not be able to answer this question, but Chance Nicol-Klukstad was the only Warrior last year in the Kiwis. Might we see some more Warriors in the Kiwis?
So Chance is definitely in the picture. Murata Niokore was unavailable last year, so he's in contention. So there's a couple. I've just made a big wider squad, Jason. So just September 30 we'll know who's in that 30.
And is it the case that you basically submit a list and then the NRL approach the players and say, hey, the Kiwis want you to play, do you want to play? Is that how it works?
The New Zealand Rugby League.
Right.
So Motu Tony or Nadine Conlon, our manager, the selectors come up with a list and then we give that list to the New Zealand Rugby League, which is Motu and Nadine, and then they approach the clubs and say, these are the players that are in contention, and then the club will get back to us and say, he's not in contention because he needs surgery or he needs something.
Right.
And then, But look, I'm on the phone quite a bit to a lot of the players around different things over the years, but right at the moment I'm just letting them play footy or the ones that are finished to have a good break.
I would imagine if I was a player and the phone rang up with Stacey Jones, I'd pick it up and say, yeah, I'll play. Do you? I know you'd never say it, but is a personal approach valuable in these situations?
Definitely, definitely. And you've got to be careful too around these things too. So me and Motu did Motu Tony, the general manager of New Zealand Rugby League, did a trip to Australia when we had a bye, and we got around to a lot of players, and it was just group conversation too, that, hey, you boys are all in contention, and they certainly want to play for their country.
Brilliant. Your assistant coaches, man, it's an all-star cast. Steve Price, Nathan Kalis, Adam Blair, Daryl Halligan's your kicking coach, David Solomona, wellbeing manager. I'm interested in Stephen Kearney, though, culture and leadership advisor. I know he stepped away from coaching and probably, we didn't know whether he was going to come back in, but as culture and leadership advisor, what does that role entail? Yeah,
so all those people you named were all part of the setup last year. So I wanted to keep things as familiar as possible, and Stephen Kearney was part of that too. So he came in for the first 3 or 4 days, and what we spoke about, the connection and culture side of it, he drove all of that, Steve, and he was a big part of why we were successful in the group. So I wanted Steve to be around the whole time. Instead of just 2 or 3 days. So we don't have a mental skills coach as such. So I feel Stephen's well experienced for a role like that. And I know that when he spoke to the group around the jersey and the culture and the connection, they all listened. He's arguably been our most successful Kiwis coach. So for me as a coach coming in, to take over the team, he's certainly going to be someone that I'm going to rely on.
Have you always coveted this role, the head coach of the Kiwis, or how long have you been thinking about the possibility of you doing that job?
Yeah, good question, Jason. Look, when I came on board with Michael Maguire, when he first took on the job, he's so passionate about what he does, and one thing he said to myself and Nathan Kalis, that I want one of you two to be the next Kiwis coach. That's my job to get you ready for that. So when he spoke to us around that I thought, this will be, why not? So I've got to thank Michael Maguire for probably shoving me in that direction.
Do you have aspirations to be an NRL head coach?
No. I did the interim job for the Warriors when we were based in Redcliffe, and look, I learnt a lot. It was more man management than actual coaching. So, but I get to see how Andrew Webster works every day, really close, and look, it's a pretty full on job, and how he goes about things is brilliant. So. No, I don't.
All right, fair enough. Good to have that cleared up. Look, you never say never, I'm sure. You might love being Kiwis head coach, and all of a sudden you're coach of the Warriors. Who knows what lies ahead? Yeah, never say never. Just before we go to a break, who gives if a halftime spray is needed? Who gives that? Is that you?
I think so. Yeah, look, It's one thing I want to be right with is being clear with messaging, making sure everyone knows their roles. So obviously, if someone's not doing their job, then there will be a time where you might have to, hey, come on, boys. But I've learnt also from a lot of other coaches, and everyone does it their own way. Like our coach now, like Andrew Webster, there's no big spray from him, but it's clear, and you know when he's angry, So I feel you got to be your own person too around these things. Again, I'll use Michael Maguire as an example. You know when you get a spray, he certainly gives it. So take a bit from every coaches that you've learnt from, but be yourself.
Wonderful. Stacey Jones, our guest. It's 1:23. A few texts rolling in. I'll ask some questions in a moment. You can call too. Greg, hold there. We'll get your question in a moment. 0800 80 10 80. Back in a sec on Weekend Sport. 1:26 on Newstalk ZB. Yeah, great delight to have Stacey Jones in studio. Taking your calls on 0800 80 10 80. We've done a lot on the Kiwis, but I know there are some Warriors questions, including one, I think, from you, Greg. You're on with Stacey.
Yeah, how you going, Jason? Good to see you as a good Kiwi man coaching the Kiwis, but I would like to know, with a similar squad in the Warriors to last year, why did we finish where we finished?
Thanks for the question. Very disappointing season, and lots of different reasons for that. Obviously, consistency with the team last year. I thought we put out a similar team just about every week, halves combinations, edge combinations, and we just got hurt there too many times where we were just chopping and changing and we couldn't get any consistency. That was part of it, but there's lots of different things, and I can't go into too many details, but there were players having problems away from the game and just probably not there in the right headspace. And look, it certainly wasn't complacency, because that was one big thing that we spoke about leading into the season, that teams will come after us now and we've got to be ready. So it wasn't that. Lots of different things, but for me it was we just weren't consistent enough. We, last year, there were tight games and we'd win them, and this year the tight games we lost. So that in a nutshell, that was it. We did a massive review for 2 weeks, and we've just come off that. First and foremost, we were disappointing.
Thanks for your call, Greg. Do you feel optimistic, Stace, having had the review?
Yeah, certainly. Look, it was very thorough. The first week was individuals, players, and then the second week it was us as coaches reviewing ourselves, and we were put through some pretty thorough stuff, and we feel that we're heading in the right direction as far as what we've got to do next year to get better. We've recruited some really good players, some young kids that they've had a bit of a taste of NRL footy. We need them to step up more this year. So very optimistic for next year.
All right, let's get back to the lines. Peter Hama, you got a question for Stacey Jones?
Yeah, thanks, Piney. Kia ora, Stace. Just the Kiwis. So you said Dylan and Kieran are out for this test or the series. So that leaves us a bit thin, and the halves, just thinking. So I suppose I know you're naming the squad in September, but to partner Jerome, I'm just thinking about in the NRL, and no names are coming to mind. And just another question around eligibility. Jack Howard from Melbourne, he's Kiwi eligible. He's had a good year this year.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Kieran and Dylan are unfortunately unavailable. Both have had surgery, one to his ankle and one to the knee. And it does leave us a little bit thin in the halves. So I've got to get my thinking cap on. We do have some options there. I'll, once we're closer to the time, we'll share that. But and your question around Jack Howarth, he was part of our Kiwis A team last year. That was a really good concept. Unfortunately, for financial reasons, we couldn't get that off the ground again. And Jack was part of that. Unfortunately, we're trying hard to make Jack put on the black and white jersey, but there's another team, a maroon jersey, that are also interested in him. So I'm working hard with him. I'm working hard with Jerome Hughes to get him over the line, but he's playing some really good footy and an exciting young prospect.
So, just to clarify, and this is probably a silly question, but I'll ask on behalf of the audience and myself. If you play for the Kiwis, you can't play Origin.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
That eliminates you from Origin forever, basically? Or?
I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. What I do know is Adam Whenua-Blake played 30 minutes for the Kiwis in 2017 and hasn't played for them since. Grew up in New South Wales. He's got Kiwi parents. And he can't play for New South Wales, where he grew up with. So that's the stuff we're dealing with. And I'd like for them to change their rules around that to make it easier for someone like that to represent his state where they grew up, but also their heritage or their culture for their country.
Can you see that happening?
Look, if the players get right behind it, the RLPA, it possibly could, but it's certainly way above my head, yeah.
Let's talk half. So Jerome Hughes is okay, isn't he?
He's okay yeah, well, but he's got to get through, a fair amount of footy. He's playing tonight against Cronulla.
Yeah.
He's had an outstanding year, and he was a huge part of our team last year. I worked closely with Jerome last year, but part of my role was with the spine, the key playmakers, and he's such a talent. And he just the year he's had this year has been unreal. I'd say he should be hot favourite to take out the Daily M.
Speaking of halves, where does Shaun Johnson sit among the players you've worked alongside?
Yeah, right up there. Unfortunately for Shaun, his body told him, it was enough, and he had this Achilles problem that he got early in the pre-season, couldn't quite shake it off. But I saw him grow last year. I saw him grow to another level as far as his understanding of the game. The way he communicates. He's right up there. And look, if Shaun wants to go down the path of being involved in the game at a level of coaching, he'll make a really good one.
Do you think he had any second thoughts, like back into the season, even the last game? It was a bit of a fairy tale, wasn't it? The way he threw a try pass with his last act, basically. Do you think any part of him thought, I could go around again?
I know middle of the year there was, but then when the injury came and the pressure that he was under, the pressure he puts on himself to perform week in, week out. There was there, but then his body told him it was enough. And the last couple of weeks he just enjoyed himself.
Yeah.
And that Sharks game, he just said, "Give me the ball. I'll my last roll of the dice here," and we saw what he could do.
Listener here says, can you try and convince Shaun Johnson to come back?
I have spoken to Shaun. I said, if we get any more injuries, would you consider? So, look, I haven't ruled it out. He hasn't ruled it out. But, look, it's a bit of a long shot. I know where Shaun is at. And, look, I'm not going to put a huge amount of pressure on him. But I've just told Shaun that I know where you're at and I know where you sit in my mind. So, nothing will surprise you.
You're talking about from a Kiwis point of view here.
Well, yeah, I mentioned it to Shaun, but he when he decided he was going to retire, he's decided he was going to retire. But geez, if I get any more injuries,
well, if Jerome Hughes goes down, you might need him. Just in terms of. I'm interested in it. I think our audience are interested in Shaun inside the team environment. We see the public face. He does media. He does post-match, that sort of thing. How integral is he inside, or has he been inside the Warriors team environment, Shaun Johnson?
Massive. You look at Shaun like there's a lot of kids playing the game because of Shaun, and he's right up there with as far as demand. Like he gets, whenever we go to Australia, everyone knows Shaun. And, he's a very respectful person. He knows what comes with the territory as far as what he has to do. His commitments off the field, he has a lot of them. But the way he presents himself, Shaun is, he's an unbelievable speaker. The way he communicates to the group, so he's a huge part of the club, and he'll be a huge part of the club, even though he's retired.
So, do you think he'll stay connected to the game?
I think he will, but I know Shaun, he likes challenges in life. He likes to do lots of things, so he'll just over the next few weeks. When I last spoke to him, that he's going to just nut out a few things, and I'm sure that he'll still be a part of the Warriors.
I spoke to him a couple of years ago, and you're right, he speaks so well. And I asked him about how he handled the fact that when the Warriors lose, it's Shaun Johnson's fault, in the eyes of a lot of people. Did you see him struggle with those challenges internally?
The biggest thing I saw with Shaun was when we were based in Redcliffe, when he came back to the club after his stint with Cronulla. And the hardest thing there for Shaun was he was away from his family. Like, he really wanted to keep playing the game. He wanted to get back to Auckland, be around his family, his friends. What Shaun is, he's really close to his family, and his friends too. I know he's got a tight knit group there, and I saw struggles there. I saw struggles when we were in Redcliffe, and he wore that really hard. And even then, he was probably thinking about finishing up, but he wanted to get home. He wanted to get home, and Andrew Webster was a huge part of where Shaun got to last year. Andrew Webster, and also Rich Agar, who's our edge coach. He made Shaun look at the game a little bit differently too, and they took him to another level.
You reckon Te Maire Martin gets first crack at the 7 jumper next year?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Unfortunately, Te Maire, he's unavailable too for the Kiwis. He's injured. He had neck surgery, so he's very tough. One thing about Te Maire, a lot of people don't understand what he went through this year. He hurt his neck, and he was just so sore every time he went into a tackle or made a tackle. Unfortunately, it was tough on him, and he had to get surgery, I think, with about a month to go. It was just, time was up for him, and he got it done. So, he's going to come back a better player next year. He got some really good experience when Shaun was out, handled the team really well. It's going to be interesting. You got Te Maire, you got Chanel, Harris Tavita, and Luke Metcalf. There's a few good choices there.
Would you normally carry 4 halves? Would you want another one?
Generally, you'd carry 4. So we've got Jet Cleary, Nathan Cleary's brother, coming to the club. So he's only young, but he'll train first grade, and if he's anything like his brother, exciting.
He was good last night, wasn't he, Nathan?
Oh.
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? He comes back from injury and plays like that.
He's world class.
Absolutely. All right, let's go back to the lines. Jordan, you got a question for Stace?
Yeah, hey, Piney. Kia ora, Stacey.
Kia ora, Jordan.
Yeah, nice to meet you, mate. Just going through last season's results and looking through them as a package, the biggest thing that stood out to me as a massive fan was just how many games we lost in that mid-30 to 40-point range. And also, on the other end, we're not getting to 30 points, and I think it's in the NRL. If you're conceding 30 to 40 points, very difficult, Stace?
Oh, very difficult. I think the benchmark is like 18 points. If you concede more than 18 points, then you're going to be in for a tough day. And we conceded way too many. I felt we just, from the previous year, we were more resilient on our try line. There's a stat, okay, and we were second last year as far as it was tackles. So it took teams 21 tackles on average if they got inside our 20 metre zone where they're attacking our try line. Took them average 21 tackles to break us. This year it was 9. So we went from second best to second last, and that just showed the resilience. We just faltered too easily.
Thanks for your call, Jordan. Just before we take a break, a lot of people have asked about crowds. They just kept on turning up, didn't they, at Go Media Mount Smart Stadium. week after week after week. In fact, an entire season was sold out. Why do you think the Warriors have established such a strong connection with their fans?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of reasons. Obviously, what the club does, the way that they promote the club, and look, I'm not a person that uses social media, but we have a really good social media team. We have a good game day team, and the experience of coming along to the game. Obviously, performance helps that too. And we had some really good games this year too. That the boys played really well at home, and then obviously some disappointing ones. So I think it's just the whole package. The whole package that the club delivers, the game day experience. And you see all different types of people come to our games. Young kids, teenagers, boys' day out,
grandparents.
Grandparents. It's just a really neat family day experience.
Yeah, it's the best show in town, that's for sure. Stacey Jones is our guest until 2 o'clock. It's 19 to 2. We're back with more after this. 2 full border calls for Stacey Jones. Not surprisingly, let's try and get a few more out. Dave, your question for Stacey?
How hard was it for you to lose Michael Maguire after that amazing 30-0 drubbing of Australia?
Yeah, Dave. Very tough, obviously. What he brought to the team, his passion around what he does, and I'm certainly grateful for what he done for me as far as helping me, letting me be involved as an assistant for the Kiwis under his whole time, and very, very difficult to lose a coach when you come off something like that. I know after, because I was, when we lost the World Cup or lost the semi-final to Australia, and straight away he was thinking, how are we going to get back? How are we going to keep doing this? So the passion and that he brought was second to none, and something that I learnt a lot from.
Appreciate the question, Dave. Thanks indeed. Lyle, question from you?
Yeah, mate, obviously there's no such thing as a weak kangaroo side. Well, last year's final might have been a bit different. Not the Kiwis were just too good. But whereabouts on the field do you think you probably have an advantage over them?
Yeah, hey, Lyle, thanks for the question. Look, the strength of Kiwi Rugby League has always been physical, and that's part of the game that we need to hold on to. I feel that we're a more physical team than the Australians at this moment. Like the middle forward pack that we have, you're looking at them playing in the NRL. They dominate. They dominate for their club. So I feel that there's an edge there that we've got to be physical, and we've got to take it to them. I know that Tonga are physical as well. So this competition, this tournament's going to be really tough.
Yeah, a couple of big test matches. Lyle, thanks for your question. Kiwis Australia Christchurch, Sunday, October 27. Hearing that is close to being sold out. Kiwis Tonga Mount Smart, Saturday, November 2. And then the final, featuring 2 of the 3 sides in Sydney, Sunday, November the 10th. Donald, you're up. What's your question for Stacey?
Yes, Stacey, good to talk to you, mate.
Hey, Donald.
Do you think there's enough room in New Zealand for 2 clubs, North Island and the South Island Club?
Yeah, good question. I know it's been around, pushed around for the last sort of few years, and look, it's going to take a big investment, and I feel like the NRL got to get right behind it. I think there is room right now, probably not, but in years' time, if they're looking at expansion, I can't see why not. But there's got to be a huge investment from somewhere, and the NRL got to get right behind it and push it. So, rugby union is a big code in this country, and it'll certainly make inroads into that. The player opportunities that will come with it will be huge.
Yeah, NRL derby as well. Thanks, Donald. Appreciate it. Now this could be Bung or Bunge, depending on how you pronounce it. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How's things?
Very good. You got a question for Stacey Jones?
Yeah, I've got a question, Stacey. It's actually around pre-season training and what the difference was. I was heavily involved in 2005 with your pre-season training in Wairuru, if you remember that one.
I do remember, yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, I remember you well. Yeah.
The physicality of the pack is up there with everybody. or with anybody, and from year in year out for the last few years. But we worked on a lot of leadership, resilience, and performing under adversity while you're extremely fatigued. Was that something that was drilled into the boys pre-season this year, as much as, say, last year or the year before, where the determination and the fortitude under pressure seemed to be so much better?
Yeah, very good question. Pre-season is where you get it. A lot of teams do army camp style trainings. They don't do it sort of every year. It's probably one every 5 years. Teams would do it, and we looked at that. And again, I think I said how we weren't resilient enough on the try line, and that's mental as well. We've got to put ourselves in these situations, and part of our review was looking at we've got to do more game stuff where we put players under pressure, but also try to perform with the skill as well. So we felt we didn't do enough of that. We didn't put the players in pressure situations enough at training for them to take it on the field. And there were reasons why we didn't do it. It wasn't like we didn't want to do it. It was just trying to find the right time and space to do it. But it's certainly right at the front of our mind heading into this pre-season.
And one before we go to the break on text, who was your idol growing up?
My idol? Oh, look, I didn't have one idol, but you know what I really loved? My idol was the 1985 Kiwi team. I remember going to Carlisle Park and watching them beat Australia, and it was Clayton Friend and Mark Graham, Hugh McGann, Olsen, James Luluai,
what a
Gary
team.
Kimball,
What a team.
Gary Prome. They were that was my idol. That era of team.
10-2, back to mop up the final few questions with Stacey Jones when we come back. 7-2, Cameron, you got the last question for Stacey Jones.
Yes, thanks, guys. Hey, look, Stacey, when I look at the Kiwis team, I see our halves. We have two of probably the strongest running halves in the competition. I mean, I think Matthew Johns called Jerome Hughes the strongest ever. And I'm just wondering, like, we sort of seem to lack a little general, players like you in your mould. When you get into those Kiwis environments, how much time do you get to coach them, and how much time is all man management because of the short time frame you get with those players?
Yeah, Cameron, good question. You don't get a lot of time, and the beauty of having experienced halves like Jerome in the team and a good leadership group sort of helps you with that. So Jerome's a very strong runner of the footy. His game's gone to another level. His kicking game is certainly exceptional. So you're very lucky to have someone like Jerome in the team because, a lot of it is player-led too, and you've got to let them, express themselves.
Thanks for your call, Cameron. Thanks for your question. Thanks for all your questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. Just a couple of quick fire from me to finish. How does Stacey Jones relax?
I don't mind a punt and a beer. I've got a horse racing today in Australia, or part ownership of a horse. So Quintessa Race 7 in Flemington. I enjoy that. Good mates with other people in the club, like Cameron George. He's part of that too. So we'll go away and have a quiet beer and a punt. I love that. And my family too. So I love spending time with my family around stuff. And when it's footy, you don't have much time for much else. My parents live up in the far north. My dad's a farmer, so I love getting up there and getting on the farm and helping out wherever I can. So get my hands dirty and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And can you walk around freely without being pestered, by fans wanting to talk rugby league or get a selfie?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm left alone.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh,
yeah.
I would have thought that you'd be mobbed at shopping malls and things like that. Right, final couple. If there was a 100-metre sprint with the current Warriors squad, who would win that?
100-metre sprint, I would say Luke Metcalf.
Luke Metcalf? Interesting.
I'd say Luke Metcalf.
I thought might be one of the outsiders.
His
okay.
nickname is Zip. Yeah.
Okay, what about a 3K run?
A 3K run, Freddie Lussick. Yeah.
I wrote down Freddie Lussick. I thought he might be quite a demon on the 3K run. Yeah. All right, and what about a bench press?
Bench press, Bunty, R4.
All right. And finally, if everyone you ever played with was in a last man standing fist fight, who would be the last man standing?
that I'd want.
No. If everyone you've ever played with, everybody, you're in it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Who'd be the last man standing in an all-in fist fight involving every player you've ever played with?
Oh, geez. You got Monty Beetham.
He'd go well.
Yeah.
He'd go well.
Arwen Goodenbill, Kevin Campion. I don't know.
Campo.
I'm out of those three, I don't know who.
All right.
Yeah.
Not you, though.
Not me. Certainly not me. I'll be behind Arwen.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Stace, it's been a great pleasure to have you in studio. Thanks for being so generous with your time. Our listeners have loved it, so I really appreciate you popping in.
No, pleasure. Thank you, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Stacey Jones, our guest here on Newstalk ZB and Weekend Sport. Got to get him back sometime soon.